You're listening to the Sass podcast. I'm your host, Christy Rocha, also known as Sass. I identify as a woman, a wife, and a mother. That should tell you a lot already. And over the last few years, I've learned the value of talk therapy. I have seen how my inner work not only enhances my own well-being, but also my marriage, my parenting, my relationships. And in fact, you wouldn't be hearing this right now if it weren't for the work I've done. My mission is to debunk the misconceptions and stigmas around what therapy is and who it's for. Let's normalize working on our mental health and seeking help when needed. We've all heard of self-care, self-help, and self-love, but do you often wonder how to actually make it all happen? I do. You'll hear strategy-based conversations with professionals, as well as inspiring and validating stories from women who are just like you and me. Think of this podcast as the weekly therapy sessions you didn't know you needed, with a dash of sass, a lot of vulnerability, and me, relentlessly asking, but how? Hello. All right. My guest today is Gina Gersh, a certified pediatric sleep coach, founder of Lulla by Gina Sleep Consulting, and a mom of 4 boys. As you can imagine, she knows all too well the sleep deprivation that comes with becoming a parent and the toll it can take on mental and physical health. After struggling with her own exhaustion, gaining control over consistent sleep quickly became a priority in her home. Motivated by her own sleep accomplishments, Gina felt a pull to help other exhausted families in need of better sleep. She trained in the area of pediatric sleep, becoming certified through Sleep Sense, one of 5 programs recognized by the Association of Professional Sleep Consultants. As a sleep coach, Gina works one-on-one with families, designing custom programs and supporting parents the whole way through with unwavering guidance, education, and a ton of motivation. Yeah. Okay. So Gina and I discuss, obviously, the importance of sleep for the entire family. She breaks down what sleep training looks like at every phase of childhood development and answers some of my burning sleep questions, which I think will be pretty relatable to all of you parents out there across the board. Gina also shared some of her own motherhood story, the impact of sleep on her mental health, and her experience in therapy. Absolutely love Gina. Love her so much so that I asked her to record this interview twice because the first time we did it, I actually didn't record it. Yay! So we did it twice, but don't worry, it was even better this second time around. So here she is. I'll see you on the other side. Bye. Hey, Gina. So nice to see you this morning. How are you?
So nice to see you too.
I'm doing all right. We're going to just get right into it all over again and see how it goes.
I love chatting about this, so it's all good.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Well, sleep as our superpower. What does that mean to you? And why make it like the thing that I see on your website? What does it mean?
Because really it's so important and we forget it all the time. It's something that we take for granted. And when we lose it, we're like a shell of a person. We're not who we would hope to be. And so when we have it, it's something that's in us. It's a tool that we have in us all the time. And we just need to nurture it and we need to maintain it. And it really is our superpower. When we have that rest, when our children have that rest, it's a world of difference in them, in us. We can take on the world. So it's important for me to really like highlight, emphasize, underline how important it really is for our well-being in general. And so it is our superpower. We have it. It's there. It's in our tool belt. We just need to work on it and keep it a priority in our life. And so to me, it's the be all and end all, especially for my kids. And, us as parents, we sometimes neglect it. And I don't think we should. And we should model what we do for our own kids if we make that a priority for them. So it's top of the list for me.
Yeah. That's interesting. I have a lot of conversations with therapists and coaches and, particularly for dealing with anxiety, depression, things of that nature. We hear a lot about having a toolbox. And it's funny because I think we all know sleep is one of them, but so rarely do I hear it said when I ask someone, what's an example of something we can have
Right.
in our toolbox? We immediately go to the things that we do during the waking hours, the walking, the water, the nutrition, and all those things are obviously so
Yeah.
important, but it's rare actually now that I'm thinking about it and hearing you talk that I hear someone say
No,
sleep.
they really don't, because we fill our day with so much. We forget that it's just as important as nutrition. I mean, literally, it's for survival. We've had this. It would be out of our routines. It would be gone already if it wasn't so important to
Right.
humanity. So it's something that we just, and we make it such a priority for our own children. Like, it's important for them, for their health, but it's just as important for us. So it is in our toolbox. It's just as important. We wouldn't skip a meal. So why are we sacrificing our
Mhm.
sleep also? It's something that we really should pay attention to, and work it into, give ourselves that time to be able to nurture it and sustain it like we would for our kids too. So yeah.
Yeah. And, I think you're right. I think that we do tend to A, take it for granted, B, just I don't know what the opposite way of saying this is, but so we don't
Hmm.
nurture it,
Hmm.
right? And I know I experience that buzzy word of revenge
Yeah.
bedtime procrastination where I just want that time so badly. But and I promise I will not continue to bring this up, but it's so clear to me now that you and I are doing this conversation how much my lack of sleep impacted my entire
Right.
day Wednesday
Yeah.
last time we talked. Like I just feel so much clearer headed and I think where you come in as a resource in the toolbox is that for us as parents, you know, that day of the lack of sleep was a lot because my kids were up in
Yes.
the night. And so we don't always we it's like there's like these really just storm of A, I don't want to nurture it. I want to take it for granted. I want to stay up late and have my time. But then when you combine all of that with not really having a lot of I'll say feeling like I don't have control over whether my kids sleep through the night, it's like, oh my
100%.
God.
It's like you could set yourself up for success. You can do your bedtime routine. You can get to bed early, and then your kids up, and then your kids up again, and then they're up again, and then they're up at 5
Yeah.
a.m. And you're like, okay, like I please? And so right, yeah. So
Uncle.
it's just like it's it's organized. So that's why it's the conversation around pediatric sleep is a conversation with parents and kids. Everybody's involved, because
Yeah.
it's important for parents to get the sleep, but they're not going to get it if their kids are up a whole bunch. So we really need to work together, get that done, get that organized, and then you can prioritize and you have more control, like you're saying, over your own sleep. So getting our kids on that routine, obviously it's important for their health and for their well-being, and for them to focus in school and have all of that energy that they need, and that space in their brain that they need. But then please sleep through the night so that I can sleep also through the night. So it supports the
Right.
entire family. it's it's crucial.
Yeah. Okay. So in, thinking about how that would look in actuality, what are for you and your family some of your sleep goals, routines? You call it sleep
Yeah.
hygiene. Talk to me a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
about
it's
that.
very important in my family, obviously. But we, I've implemented bedtime routines for my kids, not necessarily, super strict and consciously like this is the bedtime routine, but really just having time for bed. You brush your teeth, you put your pajamas on, you wash up, do those sort of things, read your book, get into bed. Those are all the things that we do every single day. It is consistent. It is all the time. And like I always say, that you can't expect your kids to do something unless you lay out those expectations. So they need to
Mhm.
understand what's expected of them at that particular time. So when I say to my kids, it's bedtime, upstairs, that they know what they're doing. They go through the motions. There's sometimes, some bickering while they're doing it, the three of them sharing a bathroom, but they are getting
Oh my
through
God, yeah.
their routine, and it's just part of what they do. They just know that that's happening. And early bedtimes are important to us. Around in the summertime, we push that a little bit and we're out a little bit later, but early bedtimes are important for them because and now that my oldest is almost 10, he is aware of when he hasn't had enough sleep. Like, he can feel it.
Mm,
And I have had those conversations with him where I'm like, see what this looks like. So he knows that he doesn't feel good on a day that he doesn't get enough rest. And so it's important for him to get into bed and have that quiet time and that downtime to be able to have sleep come. So that's important. And then my husband and I have our time. It's quiet time in our house. Everybody's sleeping.
yeah.
And my little one, he doesn't, do his own routine. So it's a lot easier to get that one down for sure. But he's down early, and then the big ones are next. And it's really like clockwork in my house. And everybody is better for it. We get up, they get up, also they have a morning routine. They get up, they get dressed, they know what's up. We've set those not rules, but that's where those sort of steps in place, and they just do them on their own now. So that's really important to us in our
Mm-hmm.
house.
Mm-hmm. What time do your kids go to bed?
In the summertime, in around 8:30, sometimes it gets a little bit later, but really, it's pretty quiet in my house by 8:30. Yeah.
Okay.
So between 7,
Okay. And
8:30.
how old is
The
the
little
little
one's
one? The
almost 2.
littlest one?
So he's in bed at
Oh, so
7:30. Yeah,
super
so he's
little.
super little.
Okay.
So he's in
Super
bed at
little.
7:30. Then, my older ones have their, some downtime, their relaxing time,
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up, and then they're up and get ready for bed. And everyone's, my oldest is almost 10, so he's winding down. He's in bed at 8:30, and my twins are 7,
Okay.
so they're in and around that time too. But they're usually out a little bit before he is. Yeah.
Okay. And for the listeners, yes, that is
Yes,
4
4
boys
boys.
that she's talking about. And we'll get into that a little bit later because I'm sure you have questions around that.
Yeah.
Um, what does the bedtime routine look like for you as the adult
Yeah.
in the house?
We all sort of have something that we consistently do. And until making this, my career and being so passionate and invested in this for children, then I was able to look at it and say, oh, I have my own routine. We all have a routine. We all have something that we do. So
Hmm.
I, wash up, get ready, do those things in, the bathroom, get ready, brush my teeth, all that stuff, pajamas. And then I read, I shut down, I shut my phone down, I put it on silent. No one's bothering me at that time, and I read. And reading is super important. It gets me into the flow of sleep, and I'm sort of falling into that first stage
Okay.
of sleep. So that's what works for me. My husband likes to go to sleep early, so he encourages it all. He's into it all. Otherwise, some nights I'd be like, oh, maybe I'll work a little bit longer, but I force myself. I get myself into it because I know how important it is.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, are you like what are you reading? Are you reading fiction or nonfiction or just
Well,
curious?
I love comedy, and I love reading biographies of comedians, and I love that too. So I really do read
Cool.
nonfiction often. But right now, my husband is into like the Lincoln Lawyer, so he's making me read this this fictional book, and it's fun. You know what? I have to get out of my comfort zone sometimes. So
Yeah.
he's excited to hear how it's going. So I'm reading that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cute. That's just something to do
You know,
together in a way.
yeah.
And I ask because I've recently discovered actually since we spoke last that I'm really I'm lacking like a level of just like playful fun in
Mm,
my life. And I think part of it is that whenever I'm consuming books or podcasts, it is
mm.
self-development. And I'm like, all right, maybe I need to buy a
No, you know
fiction book
what? I think
and,
so.
just like
I
escape a
know,
little
because you
bit.
know what? We have such limited time in our day that we're trying to like squeeze it all in, and we're trying to grow. And especially when you're on the path of like learning about yourself and growing and nurturing yourself, you're like, I want to just ingest it all. I really
Yeah.
want to be there already. So I totally
Yeah.
can appreciate that, and I do that too. But just stepping out of it and just like enjoying
Yeah.
yourself for half an hour,
Yeah.
45 minutes and just like laughing.
Even when I
Yeah,
walk, yeah, like even when I go for a walk, I have some kind of podcast in that is,
right. I know.
you know,
I know.
educational. And I'm like, I used to run with music. Like I actually used to get joy out of making the playlists for
Hmm.
the runs. And no, now it's like, unless I'm doing something quote unquote productive while I'm also doing something
Uh-huh.
productive, it's like, how much productivity can we
Literally, how
have?
much productivity can we have? It is something that, it consumes me. It's like I have to use up every single second of my day, and I have to force myself to not be that person so that I can just like, I think it actually, it helps me to then focus, like taking breaks. Like we don't take enough breaks. So take the actual
Totally.
break. If you're
Yeah.
going to take the break, take the actual break, you know?
Right. Be
Yes.
intentional about
Yes, like
enjoying it.
actually do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
try it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. I'm
yeah.
going to. Okay. So as far as what you do every day with parents and families, um, there are a couple of different stages of life, young life that
Yeah.
you work with. Can you speak to some of what you're doing with each phase, newborn, baby,
Mhm,
toddler,
mhm.
older
Yeah, yeah.
children?
So I work with families in the newborn stage, and it's often it's such a stressful time because your kids your baby at that time has so many needs throughout the night, so they need to feed constantly. So it's really hard to, I'm not sleep training those babies. It's really about education
Mhm.
and creating a
Okay.
plan to help them get into those good sleep habits for when it comes time to that like dreaded 4 month sleep regression and beyond that, that they're they have a foundation. They've supported, the separation of sleep associations. They are created their bedtime routines, which they can start from like day one. They really are just making sleep a priority. So I chat with those parents like once a week for about 6 weeks, and I just get them on that track, and just we sort of rejig some of the things that they're doing just to help make sleep a priority and get that education going so that it's a lot easier as they get into the later stages. And then from like the 4 month to the 18 month, that's when, I start the actual training. I really do. We work for like, yeah, it's
Hardcore.
hardcore. We really do. Yeah, we really, this is where you see like it's like you go from like A to Z. You're seeing the success. And so yeah, I work for like 2 to 3 weeks with those families, and I've set out a plan. I work one-on-one with them, like figure out what actually works for their family and their child. And I support them through the entire way. We're chatting every single day. We have a shared log. We're working together, getting their child sleeping through the night, extending those naps, having late, age appropriate later mornings. We're working through all of that till we get to the end of our success time. And then I go through the toddler stage, and that I really set out about 3 weeks for that, because that gets tougher. There's a lot of pushback from toddlers, as we know. So that
Hmm.
we just need a bit
Hmm.
more time with, and we work with the toddlers. So when I have any older children like that, we work together so that they are part of the plan. So it helps
Okay.
for them to have that bit of control. So and a lot of the times, like I'll say that they do really love routine. So when they are part of this and they do have that control and they do have those sequences that they're following before bed, it's enjoyable for them. And while that time is hard and it's hard to get through, you really do see the success at the end. So I really love that
Mhm.
stage. And then there's the older children stage, that I do work with some older children, like, but 5 to 8 and around that time. And that's also an age that's close to my heart, because my oldest deals with anxiety before bed, and he's had a lot of anxiety around that time. And I understand it professionally with the clients I work with and personally. So I really do know how hard that time can be. And so I work with clients for about 3 weeks in and around that time too, to help structure bedtime in a way that those those children who have that anxiety or have that stress before bed, or are just having really late nights, are feeling safe and secure during that time, and they're able to get themselves sleeping through the night and having more rest, and being more
Okay.
productive in their days. Yeah.
Is is the anxiety, and I know I'm sure this is, there's not one cookie cutter
Mhm.
answer, but is the anxiety around actually going to sleep, or what do you see, even if you wouldn't mind, just for your own family, like what kind of anxiety are we
Yeah,
talking
like,
about?
I mean, a lot of times it can happen around that time for the older children who are more aware. I mean, like, look what's happening in the world and things that they're seeing. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it creates a lot of stress for them, and like certain unknown, and they don't have certain control over things. And then so when it gets to bedtime, when it's quiet, they're not distracted, they're not in school, they're not in activities, they're not, having family time or anything
Yeah.
like that. They're just sitting there, and
It all
everything's
floods in,
everything's shut
right?
down. Now it's coming into their mind. And so it can happen before bed where they're having trouble falling asleep, and then they end up falling asleep pretty late, which then leads to multiple night wakings, or they're waking through the night
Mhm.
and they're having these particular fears and they need that comfort to be able to get back to sleep. So it's all of it. It's falling, being able to fall asleep, and then having that disrupted night, and having fragmented sleep so that they're not rested for the day, and then they're off to school and not focusing as well as they should be. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Okay. What do you think about some of the tools that are available to parents from a store, or something like a melatonin or a sleep mask or a sound machine? Like what where do those tie into what you do, if they
Yeah,
do at
yeah.
all?
So sound machine, I love sound machines. They are
Mhm.
great. Keep them at
Or I was thinking,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
before you finish, and the weighted
mhm,
blanket,
yeah,
things like things that have been suggested to me for
yeah, yeah,
for my
yeah,
my
yeah.
kids,
And you know what? Like, so for example, like I say, for the sound machine. So you know, I personally have a fan on all year round in my room.
Mhm.
It's a comfort. It's a white noise. It's totally okay at the particular level. My oldest, who deals with that anxiety, loves to have a sound machine on. It is distracting. It is calming for him, and I have no problem with that, because really a parent doesn't need to intervene in that respect. The child can fall
Mhm.
asleep on their own. You put on the sound machine, it's a quiet white noise in the background, and they go to sleep more easily in that respect. When it comes to melatonin, um, I I don't love it. I know,
Mhm.
I know.
Yeah.
A lot of parents, go for that and go into that direction, and this is obviously something that you definitely should have a conversation with your doctor about. But really, in my understanding, is that children are not lacking in melatonin, so they do have
Ah,
melatonin, and they do have enough. So it is something that is naturally produced in our bodies at a time when, so melatonin is produced during, it's stimulated from darkness. So when it's dark,
mm,
our melatonin starts to come out, and we have all this artificial light that's keeping us up longer than we should be. So that's when
mhm.
it's stimulated, and we have to condition our bodies to get to that point where it's natural, continuing to naturally be stimulated and come out when it needs to be.
Okay.
So if we're constantly supplementing it, it's just not necessary. It's important for me, where I come in, is I look deeper and I say, where is the problem for these children? Is it necessary to be giving them the supplement? Well, let's see what's going on. Do they have a bedtime routine in place? Do they have this proper bed sleep hygiene going on? And let's work on all of this behavioral stuff first, without having to introduce
Mhm.
something else, because that might fix it and help them bring out their natural melatonin at the time that they need to. It takes practice. It takes time. If it hasn't been being produced at the proper times, then it needs to be reworked. And so
Yeah.
I go to behavioral all the time first. That's
Yeah.
that's important.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of,
Mhm.
and it's not related, but it just reminds me of when I first started watching all the documentaries about veganism, and they were like, no doctor has ever looked at anyone and said, you have a
Yeah,
protein
right? Like,
deficiency. Like, we have
yeah,
more than enough.
yeah,
Like, stop. It's okay. You do not need a piece of meat at every
right.
single
Yeah.
meal. Like, I don't know. And it just reminds you of that. It's like, so often, whether I'm talking about sleep or nutrition or just even mental health in general, it's like our bodies know
It's
what to do.
unbelievable. And it's like, And it's like,
Yeah.
look, I am never judging anyone. You know what? It is, if something is working for you, great. I am so happy for you. That's all that I want for people. But it's just like, I just want to be able to look at to see what else is out there. And I know that these tired parents are so exhausted. And if they have heard that this
Yeah.
is working, well, why can't it work? And they try these things. And I totally get that. And that's okay. But where I come in is I'll look at every single thing that's happening and I'll try, and I'm going to be looking at all of that and making it work without having that supplement because our children don't actually need it. They produce it themselves. We just need to have
Yeah.
earlier bedtimes, make them consistent, keep that going consistently. It's not easy to do, but keep it going and work
Yeah.
on all that behavioral stuff first so that we don't have to add in anything else. And then for their life, they'll have these skills that will be in their toolbox.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
It's a good point because, I don't know. Well, like you said earlier, we start to take it for granted. It's just the thing we
Mm,
do every day,
mhm,
and we don't put a lot of effort into it a
yeah,
lot of the time.
yeah,
Until you get to be like in your 30s and you realize like, oh, it's actually much harder to just fall asleep and have a great night's sleep. And now I need
yeah.
all of these extra
Yeah, and look, it's
things.
okay. Like, I don't blame anybody for trying to do these things. Like, I have recently been talking to a client, and she was, and I'm like, okay, tell me everything that's going on. And she's like, well, I don't want to tell you. I look embarrassed. I don't want to tell you. And I was like, no, you please, like
Oh,
this is a non-judgment space, and I'm here to help
yeah.
you. I was you. I did this.
Right,
I have
right,
been
right.
exhausted.
I
I have
know.
wanted to try literally everything. Like, I get it. I
Yeah,
had a 2-year-old and newborn twins. Like, I would get sleep any way that I possibly could. So I understand
yeah,
what it's like. I'm here to help, and I will, like, in a way that I totally understand and can totally appreciate, get you to that other side. So you need to be afraid to talk about it because that's why we're here.
right,
you know? Yeah.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. And ultimately, if you're totally happy with whatever form of bed and sleep is happening in your house,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Good.
Nobody's
No,
saying you
you
have
don't
to
have to
change
change
it.
it. That's
Great. You know what I
amazing.
mean?
If something's
Yeah.
working in
Yeah.
motherhood, like, letting, like, amazing.
Right.
So just
Right.
scream it from the
Right.
rooftops because we it's hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Knock
Yeah,
on
yeah,
some wood.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have some personal questions for you, but I think that they will speak to a lot of the common challenges that
Mhm.
parents face. Um, so we'll get into them a little bit. The transition to the
Yeah.
big kid bed. My daughter, we did this with her maybe a month ago. She hated it. She was screaming for her crib, like just really was not about it. Any advice on how to make that transition a little bit smoother than
Yeah.
perhaps it was in
Yeah,
my
yeah. I know,
house?
it's any transition is always difficult, and I'll say that with every one that you go through, and there's a lot, you give yourself
Yeah.
grace and give yourself time. It takes time for your child to get to that place of comfort. That's something that they've known for so long. So, it's tough when you're in the moment. You're like, just please like this, but just, say like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm just gonna breathe through this and I'm gonna give it time. I'm gonna let them get into this groove for a couple weeks. It's okay that this is taking some time. So, first
Okay.
understand and, give yourself that space. But
Mhm.
if you have a routine going for your child, keep it the same. Keep it going because then that's something
Mhm.
that hasn't changed. That's something that they do know is going on. So,
Mm.
if you don't, get one before you make that transition and have one in place so that
Okay.
they're going through the same motions. Like, it can feel a little bit out of control for them when there's so much change. But if that is continuing to go, then they understand that these are that bedtime's still the same, so they don't feel so much of
Mhm.
that discomfort. Another thing is to involve them in the process. So, like, pick your own sheets, pick your own pillowcase, maybe have like another stuffy that we have for now your big kid bed. Like, yay, so exciting. So, like,
Mhm.
involving them into this process makes it exciting for them, makes them feel like rewarded when they proud about this situation. And then
Mhm.
also in in and around the bedtime routine, like keep those boundaries going. Like remind them of the boundaries. Like this is your bed. Sure, you can get out of it, but we still stay in our bed. This is your quiet activity that
Yeah.
you can do in your bed. We still stay in our bed, staying in our bed. Remind them that this is a place, this is still the same. We still have the same boundaries and the same rules around bedtime that we had previously. So you're staying in your bed during this time, and keep that, maybe make that as like the last point in your bedtime routine. Like a lot of the times with older kids, like, you could post it up into their room and have, all the steps, and they have to, check them off in their mind or check them off physically if they want to, so that they
Hmm.
know the sequence of events before they go into bed. So it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. That whole checklist idea, it's something that
Yeah,
keeps
I
coming
know.
up. Cara Tyrrell, I interviewed
Yeah.
her, and I was telling her about sometimes the morning is tough because not every day is the same. They don't go to school
Hmm.
every day. So they don't know a lot of the time if it's a day where we need to get up and go, or it's a day where we can kind of like be chill in our pajamas and have breakfast and
Right.
whatever. And she was like, make a
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
have the get up and go days be green and the chill
Yeah.
days be blue, and say tomorrow's a green day. And and I was okay, now you're saying this. I'm like,
I know, I
all
know.
right.
And it's like, oh, like, I do I have to do this? I have to put this out. And it really makes such a big difference because they,
Yeah,
kids like to be in control of a situation. They like to know what's going on. And so do we. I mean, we have these expectations too. We have agendas. We have all of our sticky notes and all of our things that we need to organize ourselves also. So like, why can't we give them that
it's
sort of
true.
credit too? And then
Yeah,
they get up and they say, oh, like they're more willing to do these things when they know that this is
yeah,
the rule for today. They know it.
yeah. I actually started it, I just didn't finish it. I'm sorry, Cara, if you hear this. I started it, the board is
That's good.
made, I just need to finish it
That's good.
anyway.
That's good.
um
It's yeah,
Baby steps.
yeah. Can't do it all the time.
What age are we transitioning
Into the bed.
from to the big kid ed?
So
Yeah.
like my number one is don't rush. Do not rush. I mean,
Okay.
I know there's a lot of folks who are maybe like having another child and they want to use the crib for the other child. And like I understand all of
Uh,
that. I totally get it. But if you can wait it out, there's no safety concern. Your child is not climbing out. There's no issues there. Like, keep it going. I had my older son in his crib over 3.5 years old. So like I'd say three
well, yeah.
plus. But if they're
Okay.
still not climbing out at that point, like just keep it going. It's a safe space for them, and there's really no rush.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the next thing that's happening here is that my 4-year-old, 4.5-year-old is waking up terrified in the night. She has a blue light on her sound machine that does not stay on all night. And she wakes up, and when it's off, she's losing her mind. Um, and just generally just seems very scared. Um, I don't know. We've tried different night lights, but she's super particular. She's super kind of controlling. I have no idea where
Yeah.
she gets that from. Um, and so she just wants that light, but it doesn't stay
Yeah.
on. And it's kind of making us nutty because, we go in and she wants us to sit, and then it turns into going to the bathroom, and then it turns into sit again after the bath. Like we're just the last time you and I talked, it happened 2 or 3
Yeah.
times throughout the night. My husband was up once, I was up twice. Like it's just we're
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
it.
And I think a lot of this wake up has to do like in and around this age. It's really like there are new things happening. I know we talked about this. Is there something new? Is school, is a parent home or not home, like
Mhm.
certain things happening where there's new, and they need that time with you. So a lot of the times these wake ups are in and around this age, constantly, toddler to this age, and sometimes older, is like there's just there's that need that they want. And then when it's fulfilled, and when you come and when you're there and you're spending that time with them, it just continues. And I'm not saying, don't comfort our children in the middle of the night. I mean, if they need that comfort, let's do that. But if this is happening all the time, and she's constantly
Mhm.
getting up and she's
Mhm.
making an excuse, and I need some water, I need to go potty, I need to, it's
Mhm.
often that she wants your attention. And so the first place that I would start with in this respect is like, give her that one-on-one time in the day. Carve out that
Mhm.
specific time, and like you're making a chart, make it like consistent. We have our time together. Fill her bucket during that time. Give her that quality time in the day so that she's not craving it so much at nighttime, and then pull back at nighttime. If you are
Okay.
constantly there and you're constantly a support for her all the time, she's going to need that to be able to get back to sleep, or she's going to make reasons, or she's going to go through a sleep cycle and wake up and be like, now's the time, and going to get up and want your attention during that time. So, it's hard to
Okay.
let go of, but if you know that you've given her that quality time in the day, then you won't feel so bad about not giving it at night. And then the reality is like, yes, you want to be that support for her at night, but she's not getting enough sleep and she's waking up and she's disrupted, and then
Yeah.
you're not
She's
sleeping. And so
exhausted.
it's really not good for
Yeah.
anybody. It's really, really not good,
Right.
So,
Right.
let's change it up. Let's make that time in the day so that you're not putting too much energy in at night. And, like, wean her off of that light. I mean, it's maybe let's put something
Mm,
else in there. We want like a dim, cool, like yellow light or something that's not going to interrupt her sleep. Like blue light is really not something that I would recommend. And so try to wean her off of that, because if it's not working and it's causing a problem and it's becoming a reason for her to be waking up, let's put in something else. Let's have her pick it. Let's have her pick something else
yeah.
that she gets to have in the night, like a new stuffy or something like that, or something that she
Yeah.
can add to her bedroom space to supplement for that. Or maybe there's a light that's outside of the door, that you can keep on so that
Hmm.
there's a little bit of light coming into her room. So we want to keep it still
Yeah.
pretty dark, but I understand that those fears do come up. So try to work on some
Yeah.
of that if you can.
She picked, I said to my husband at one morning
Mhm.
this week, I was like, I think we're getting close to the time where it's a whale
Mm,
light. It's like a whale light sound machine
mhm,
combo. And it has all different colors, but she likes the
mhm.
blue. I was like, I think we're getting to the point where the whale just randomly
Yeah,
is
right.
broken. It's broken, and
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah,
Bye-bye, whale. Rest in
yeah,
peace.
yeah. And you know what? Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're getting there because I picked out another one that had I saw that like you're saying some warmer like colors like the
Mhm, mhm,
reds are good because it's not as bright
mhm,
and this and that. Hates it. I even took her and she picked out a unicorn something or other and she liked it for 2 nights and now she wants it in her room but refuses
mm.
it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
And
just
you know
we're
what? And it's because
mm,
the whale is something that she knows and is comfortable.
yeah.
There are, you can wean it or you can replace it with something else. I
Let's
personally,
cut
for
the
my
wire. That's
kids
what I'm gonna
and
do.
my family, and, any clients that are, on the same page as me, I will work with whatever is comfortable for you. I am cold turkey girl. Like, I am like,
Yeah, I'm like
let's
that. I'm like just
kind of,
cutting the
and you have a
wire.
few
Yeah.
days of like, oh, it is not fun. It is
Madness.
100%
Yep,
not
I
fun.
know.
And then it's good. And then they realize they can live
Yeah,
without it, and everyone's
yeah,
better for it. So you just have to prep yourself in that respect. It is like just pulling off a band-aid, and it's a lot. In my
yeah,
opinion, it's a lot easier to get through. But
yeah. And you know what the other thing I was thinking is that, I on one hand, I hear essentially fill her bucket of me during the day. And I'm like, gosh, I'm with her all day, most of the time. But my son's
yeah.
always there. And so I think what might be good is when this regular school year starts, there will be 3 days a week where she and I have from like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 where he's in school
Mhm.
still. So maybe I think,
Yeah.
you
And it
know,
doesn't,
she's got that like firstborn, like I used to have you to myself and now I
oh,
don't. And, she can't say that to me, but I think that is a little
I
bit
know.
of
And
it
like, you
too.
know what? The reality is like, don't let your mom guilt like overcome you. You know what I mean? It's not like you don't have to spend, as much as we want to spend time with our children,
Yeah.
of course, but like, you don't have to like carve out 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, you have like certain things to
Yeah.
do, and it's okay if she's like reading a book or playing with her toys and you're doing something else. It's like you have it like a half an hour to an hour or something. It's just like she has your attention. You know what I mean? Like, and
A
it's like,
touch
if you're
point. Yeah.
realistic about it and know what you can do, like, then you're going to do it and you're going to feel good about it and you're going to make it consistent. And it's not going to be something where you're sitting there the whole time being like, "Oh, you know what I could be doing right now?" Like,
I know.
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know.
Right. So,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like make it like real
Yeah.
quality time that you're spending. And yeah, when you are alone with her and she'll realize like how it'll fill her bucket. Like it'll feel great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, 3 hours of time or anything like that. Right. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I guess the next sort of thing is, you know, she's she's not interested in napping anymore. But I'm struggling with losing that
mhm,
time. And I find that she's actually tired. So, but like it's so beyond, like she doesn't nap in school anymore. She will sometimes go in her room when she's home and like color or something like that. But any advice on transitioning from nap to no nap and how to kind of get that rest in without it being like, hey, go to your room and sleep
yeah,
but not
it's a
sleep.
sad time. I know. It's a really
I'm in
like
mourning.
it's
I'm in mourning.
really, like we start off with our kids like be like our life revolving around naps and we're like, oh my God, my whole life revolves around naps. And then they're gone and you're like, what? I know. It's a big
Yeah.
transition. But if she's getting out of that, I always recommend like once you're transitioning, again, give yourself the time and early bedtimes are important. So if you're noticing that
Okay.
she's tired later on in the afternoon, it's because she is, we go, she's tired. She's gone through the whole day. It's a lot of sleep pressure to be building up into the whole day. And so, once you're getting out of that nap in the middle of the day and you're dealing with that, like have some early bedtime so that she is getting down at a good time and getting that rest that she needs. And incorporating that quiet
Mhm.
time is important. I mean, it doesn't have to be something like super strict. It could be just like, let's relax for a little bit. Like mommy has to do work and you read a book during that time. Like this is our time together, what like add it to the chart,
Yeah.
but like this is,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this is our time together. It's important to have that quiet time just to like reset because when you're getting out of that one nap, like often our kids are still tired at that time. They still look tired, they
Yeah.
still feel tired. Of course, they are tired. Like it's still a lot of
Yes.
time that they have gone through. But then we put them down for that nap still, and then we have a child up till 9 o'clock. So that
Yeah.
once they are done with that nap, let's go with it. Like go with the flow.
Okay. So even if that means maybe she's going up to bed before my 2-year-old,
Yeah,
because my 2-year-old is still napping and he naps well. So he's not necessarily ready for bed at like 6:37. I will put him down then at times, but he definitely is like chatty in his crib
yeah,
for a while. Um, and depending on how well he naps, right? He naps better when she's
yeah,
not in the house.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so
Yeah, like,
yeah,
and
okay.
it's
All
only
right.
for a short time. It's not something like
Mhm.
she will get used to it and she will get used to staying awake for that amount of time. Like it's like I know there's a lot of pressure sometimes around following wake windows. And some
Yeah.
moms that I'll be working with will be like, oh, my child looks tired already. They're tired already. And they need to build up that sleep pressure in order to be able to have a full nap afterwards. So if you put them
Yeah.
down too early, oftentimes they have a short nap and they haven't built up enough sleep pressure to carry them through to that like hour and a half nap that we would like them to have. So we want to push her for the whole day and have her body get used to that whole day of being awake. And so it's just helping her not get too overtired or not get so cranky by the evening to have those early
Okay.
bedtimes. And then, then push it 15 minutes, and
She'll
then
adjust.
go back
Yeah.
to your normal bedtime where you're putting them both down to bed in and around the same time. And it's you'll get there sooner than you think, and it'll just if you see
Yeah.
that she's having a tough time by the evening, try to work on those early
Hmm.
bedtimes. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe that same answer would apply to my sort of last kind of personal question here is, like I mentioned, my kids are not in school every day, but the days that they're not in school, they are so visibly tired from being in school. And I start to wonder, like, how am I going to increase the days in school? And I look at, and I'm like, how are kids in school? And when I say school, I mean, it's called school, but they're
Yeah.
4 and 2. This is like daycare,
Yeah.
preschool. I can't imagine how miserably tired they would be if I had them in that environment more than 2 or 3 days a week, because the days in between, like, it is very
Mhm.
touch and go. They're very cranky, they're very moody. And like, I don't know, like, will they just
They
get
will.
used to it? Is that
Yeah, they
what it
will get
is?
used to it, and then there's certain things like I said that we can control. So like the bedtime, we can control that. They will generally wake up at the same time in the morning. Like if they are sleeping through the night and they do have that ingrained in them and they have gone through a training or what have you, and they are waking up, if they're waking up in and around 7, let's say in the morning, if you get them to bed like a half an hour, 45 minutes earlier than they normally do, they're still going to wake up in and around that time in the morning. It's not like you get them to
Okay.
bed early and then all of a sudden
Okay.
now they're going to wake up early. They're just catching up on sleep
Yeah.
and they're tired, and it's helping them to not be so overtired. And that will come with time. I mean, it's a lot
Hmm.
going through a whole day
Yeah.
of daycare or
Yeah.
school. Like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stimulation. There's a lot of learning. There's it's so much. So of course they're tired. Like we're tired. I'm tired at 5. Like it's not gonna,
Yeah.
if everyone would just leave me alone, I'm getting into bed.
Right.
I'll go to bed at 5 o'clock or something like that. Like I'm
I know.
exhausted for sure, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
sleep because that's not my body clock. That's not when I'm ready to go to sleep. That's not when, my
Right.
melatonin's kicking in. Like it's just going to end up being a nap. Right. So we need to just,
Right.
get them to that bedtime hour, but maybe push it a little bit earlier than normal just to help them catch up and not be so overtired. And gradually, like, increase it again every sort of 15 minutes after a couple weeks, and they'll get to that point. But yeah, they're
Okay.
tired. They're
Yeah.
tired, and that's okay. It's a
Yeah.
long day.
You're doing-
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they're just, I don't know, because I see it when I pick them up. Like, it's funny, like, where I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's almost like I don't like toddlers, like, they're doing
Yeah.
so much. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, maybe it's just what you said. I'm trying to restate what you said. It's like they are
They're
tired. They're
doing
just tired, and
so
that's
yeah.
it's okay, right? Like, I don't want them to get till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon
Yeah,
full
no,
blast,
100%. And
right?
it's like,
Like,
then you're
yeah,
gonna have, like I hear this so often, and it's happened to me when my kids were little, like on our way home from daycare, they're falling asleep in the car. You know what I mean? Like, oh my
yeah,
God, like they're great. And is this gonna
yeah,
ruin everything? I mean, no. If you have your child, like I say, like sleep trained, they're sleeping through the night, they are on a schedule, they know
yeah,
what's up. It's not gonna impact it too much if it's like a 15-minute, like quick, they're so tired. Anything longer than that, keep them awake. You're yelling in the car. How many times have you done that? You're like, oh my God,
oh
right?
my
It's
god,
like, yeah,
oh
yeah,
my
right. Um,
god. I'm like, what are ready to throw
anything,
whatever's in the front
anything. Like
seat
we don't
back,
want
like,
anything more than that because then
what?
it will impact their bedtime 100%. But you'll see, like you'll pick them up and they're tired. They're really tired from that
Yeah,
whole day, and that's just very
yeah,
very normal. It's a long day for them. So if you see that, you're able to keep them awake in the car, get them home, get them fed, and then get them to bed. At a good time.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right. So let's go to our adults, since we're all adults listening and doing this. Talk to me about, you mentioned it earlier, that without sleep we become a shell of ourselves, like the sleep deprivation and the effect on our mental health. Like, talk to me about that connection. Like, I feel like there's so much in new parenthood, ourselves with the sleep deprivation, our relationship gets affected, our work, like all of it. Like,
It's
what do we do? How
it's
do we start to,
it's
do
terrible.
this?
Like I said, I had a 2-year-old and newborn twins, and I was like, what is this? Like when I had my oldest, I sleep trained him, everything was great. Like it was so I was already very passionate about it and I worked hard on that. And then the twins came along and I was like, what? Like I'm only one person, right? So it's
Right,
just,
right.
it was
Yeah.
so hard. I was like, one was sleeping while the other one was awake, and it was totally crazy. And I felt
Oh
like I
God,
couldn't like
that's my nightmare.
string words together. Like I was so exhausted, completely exhausted. And we talk about mental health. Like I had like almost no sleep, and I had to take care of 3 kids under 3. Like, when
Yeah.
you really think about that, like, I am their
Like,
person.
I know
Yeah,
you did
but
it,
it's
but no.
it's insane, and there's people who are doing it all over the place,
Yes.
all the time. Like, you're taking care of a
Yep.
child, and you are
Yeah.
totally exhausted. It affects our mental health. Contributes to anxiety and depression, and it affects the way that we focus. Like, when we have increments of sleep throughout the night, and we're not actually getting the full amount of sleep that we need, we're not getting like, for example, we're not getting like a REM sleep that comes after
Right.
our deep sleep, and we're not getting that REM sleep that contributes to building our memories and our learning through the day. So we're
Mm,
like, of course we're in a fog. Of course we're barely able to, like, what's happening? What is the time? I don't know. Like, it is totally
mhm.
exhausting, and it feels very lonely. And it's hard to be able to wrap your head around like what to do next when you actually feel completely depleted. So we're meant to be like superheroes at that time, and we have
Yeah.
no fuel in our tank. So it's really
Yeah.
just I I think about those times, and it it's hard to, it's hard to like feel all that joy of having a new baby at that time when you feel
Yeah.
so tired. That's when you really know
Yeah.
how important it actually is. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I had jotted down that I feel like, during those early months, like there's not much you can do about
Yeah,
it really. I
yeah,
mean, they need to be fed, they get up, like they're
yeah,
helpless. But it does remind me though that even in those times, I really just appreciate you saying that you force yourself because I don't know why, but I want to go to bed. I want to take a nap. I remember completely resisting even when my babies were babies, wanting to
yeah,
nap when
yeah,
they napped. I know like that's so cliche and it's not always possible, but the rare occasion where it was possible, I was like, well, it's not what I want
yeah.
to do. I don't want to sleep. Like I don't have a life right now. I want to read or I want to like do something for myself and it's like that is something for
I know.
yourself.
And it's like we have all this anxiety around it, that like not only are you not getting the sleep, but you're so concerned that like they're gonna wake up, and then you don't have enough time, and you want to like
Yeah.
fill all that
Yep.
time in. And like you do need to force yourself to a certain degree. Like we had a lot of ways that we were trying to force ourselves to get to sleep, but like just top of mind when my littlest one was a baby, we had like a routine at night. Like when he'd go to sleep, my husband would stay awake, and I would sleep for like a couple hours. Like we made sure that like I had to force myself to sleep,
Yeah.
because you know that you're not going to get it otherwise. The thing
I
to
know.
remember is that time, we they're newborns, and they need to feed frequently through the night, and some have it worse than others. Some um
And
yeah,
it
it
won't
just
last
it just
forever.
doesn't. And like
Yeah.
we forget that in the first year of their life, it's like there's so much change. It's literally like daily. Like there's so much
Yeah.
change happening all
Yeah.
the time. So when you do get to that point, like I work with a lot of parents in and around the 5 and 6 month, when they've gone through the 4 month sleep regression, and they're like, okay, we're done now. Like, okay, like I'm
Yeah.
done now. Like, let's get this worked out. And then it's totally life changing. And they're like, how did I even function before this? So it's
Yeah.
just like there is a light, and we got to get through that time. And like, being conscious of
Yeah.
of making sleep a priority for you and for your child, like where you can, is important to remember. But it's hard.
Mhm.
It is like,
Yeah.
it is a really, really hard
I
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when my first was born, we were living with my parents at the time, and she was born in January, and it was Super Bowl in early February. And the window that we all knew, all four of us knew that I needed to be sleeping was the
Oh,
halftime show. And I was literally, and like, I like watching the Super Bowl. I like watching the halftime show, but it is not like I'm not a
Yeah.
diehard, right? But I just remember sitting up in the bedroom, knowing I needed to sleep, the whole thing, and just being like,
Yeah.
seriously? I'm the only person in the country right now
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
watching the halftime show. I'm the only person that doesn't know what's going to happen. Is a nipple going to fly out? Is somebody going to like do something
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy? Like, I just was so miserable that I was like, this is not what I
I
signed up
know. And this is what I
for.
talk about, like feeling low, like you're low. Like you're like, what is
Yes. I'm in a
that? Like,
dark
can I,
room by
yeah,
myself.
can I just
Yes.
continue my life? Like,
Yeah.
can I just be normal? Like, can I just,
Yes. I just
yeah,
want to
like
be
I
a
just want to
human.
do this. And then
Yeah.
it's like, then it slowly starts to happen. And you're like, oh, okay. But like,
Yeah.
this is why it's so hard for me where there's all these, myths around sleep training and, that it's associated with cried out and all
Mm,
of that, which it definitely is not. But there's one that people talk about where it's like, they say it's like a selfish thing or that it is not, it is, you're talking about
right.
when you're like, we just talked about like getting your, having your child sleeping well means that you're sleeping well. And so it's
Yeah.
your unit, you and your child. So when one is not
Yes.
happy, the other one's not happy. Like you work together, like you are your person for your child. And so you need that rest also. So and they need it. So it's equally as important for both to get that sleep going because everyone suffers otherwise. Like we have to look at it as like a
Yeah.
mother-child relationship, a mother-child like attachment. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think that is huge as far as a misconception is that it's selfish to sleep train. But talk a minute about crying it out because I think that that's what a lot of people think of when they hear sleep
yeah,
training. And you said just
it's
briefly,
not.
it's not. So talk
Yeah,
about that a
so
second.
I
Yeah. I think
I
that's
ugh,
important.
I resent that it's been associated with that, so long ago that has that it is a method. It definitely is. It's called extinction and it is a method. But like things are different now. Like we have technology, so we can see our kids. We have monitors. It's a very different
Yeah.
thing that's going on. But it is one method, and there's people that definitely do that. But there's tons of other methods, and it's not leaving your baby and then walking away and just going about your life. Like no one's. We're not doing that. It is. It
Not like
like
getting on a
bye,
plane to
like it's
Tahiti,
not
like,
that's
see you
not what's
later.
happening at all.
Sleep
Yeah, like it's
well.
really just not at all what's happening. There are gradual
Yeah.
methods. Like I work with families where we work together on what works for them, and they are all successful and they all are great and comfortable. And it's important to understand that crying is normal for a baby. It is normal. Babies
Mm,
cry. Like we
mhm,
we can't always intervene every single second when they're crying, but our job as a parent is to hear their cries and to meet their needs at that time. So are they
mhm,
hungry? Are they uncomfortable? Like if they're hungry, feed them. Or if they're uncomfortable, change their diaper, give them in, put them in warmer clothes. If they're tired, well, then now we need to figure out how we're going to get them sleep. We can't make them sleep, but we can set them up for success so that they can sleep. And so,
mm,
sometimes, when you first start, sleep training, there is, maybe more crying at the start because they're uncomfortable and they're not sure what's happening. And
right.
um, a new environment, perhaps. Maybe they haven't been put in their crib as often enough. So this just takes getting used to. But if they're tired,
Yeah.
they want to sleep. That's when they want
Right.
to sleep, like we're meeting their needs, we're solving the problem. So it's important
Right.
to recognize that distinction. And then I always think about like, again, I will reiterate that I had a 2-year-old and twin
Yeah.
newborns. Someone was always crying. Like I'm one person,
Yes.
and I
Oh my
couldn't
God.
tend to all
Yes.
three of them literally at the same time. So, I'm not just saying you have to leave anyone and not meet their needs, but of course you do. But like, let's give it a minute. We
You're a
have to give it
human
a minute
being. Yeah.
sometimes, or we can't, if you
Yeah.
have multiple children, like someone might not be, you might not be able to tend to them right at that very second. So, we're trying, and I feel like I really just hate that any mom should ever feel guilty about decisions that they're making to better their family. So it's important that we talk about that distinction, that it really is not that. It is comfortable and
Yeah.
healthy and safe and and successful in getting sleep back in your house. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and let's do a few minutes because it's so
Mhm.
relevant to me and my interest in my
Yeah.
show. And you mentioned it now a couple of times, just how challenging that time in your life was. Like
Mhm.
4 kids. Was that always the plan? Like, did you want 4? Like, talk to me a little bit
Yeah,
about
it was
that.
not the plan for sure. I never envisioned it. I mean, I would say that I probably was someone who could like I wanted a big family. Like I definitely did.
Mhm,
But I never expected that
mhm.
I'd be going from one to three. Like I never had that experience of two
Yeah,
children, and
yeah.
one to three was huge. And but I always felt like after that, I still wanted another one. I wasn't
Mhm.
totally sure because obviously I felt insane, like and people did not shy away from telling me that I was insane for thinking that. They were like, "Sorry, what?" And then of course I
Yeah,
did get the obvious questions of, "Oh, you want to try for a girl?" Which like I can't even tell you how many times people have said that to me.
yeah.
They still say it to me like, "You're gonna go for a fifth time?" I'm like, "Absolutely
Oh
no."
my
Like
god.
no,
Yeah,
like
shops
forget about
closed.
it. But
Yeah.
I did struggle with with wanting to have like with reconciling wanting to have that fourth baby. I was like, do I want to do this all over again? I mean, my kids are older now, like I could be in that stage,
Mhm,
but I just,
mhm.
for the parents out there who feel this, like when you feel you want another one, it's like it just doesn't go away. Like it's
Yeah.
just something. It just doesn't go. I had a hard time like getting to that point, and I was afraid. I'm like, I'm doing this all again, but it's he's the best thing that ever happened to us. It was amazing. Our family is complete. It's incredible, but I'm back in naps. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but it was
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, and you were you were working with a
Yeah.
therapist during this time. What got you initially to start working with a therapist?
So I mean, I really started thinking about it shortly after I had the three, and it was like a lot of juggling. It was a lot going on. Like I felt like I was so busy all the time and I wasn't taking care of my mental health. Like I'd be concerned about stuff, or I'd have things on my mind and I couldn't work through them. I don't know if like you can relate to that, but like during the day, like there's so much happening and it's like these
Yeah.
little things that are upsetting me or bothering me, or like I'm feeling, like I need to, reconcile issues and they're stuck in my head. I can't deal with them because I have little kids that I'm dealing with all
You're
the
so
time.
busy.
And then I
Yeah.
get to it's time for bed and I'm like, I can't think about this right now. Like, I don't know. And I wasn't taking care of myself in that respect. And so, like we talk about forcing ourselves, I was like, I need to carve out this time to be able to deal
Mhm.
with things that my stresses, and be able to take that time for myself to work through it. So I would schedule it. And I was like, I need to talk about these things and I need to go through them. I need to reframe them. I needed to, really work through them and not bring that into my home and then not focus the way that I want to with my kids because I'm having some anxiety about certain things or I'm feeling stressed about stuff. And so it was important for me to just like take that step and just say like, I need to, I need to work on this so I can be more present in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How else do you like to take care of yourself, or how do you make the time for other self-care
Yeah.
activities
I
now?
I like to work out. So I try to carve that out in my day. Sometimes I do it before, like I try to do it early in the morning if I can. I'm a Peloton user, so that to me is something that is it's a workout that I enjoy. I don't love all workouts. I'm not like a gym goer or anything, but like that is to me when you find something that you really enjoy that's active, it's like
Yeah.
this is great. And walking to me is so great. Like I like to walk with someone or like listen to a podcast, or I know you're always carving out your time for a walk, right? Like it's just like you need to
Mhm.
have that break. So I'm not a meditation person. I to me like meditation is in the form of at being active. So I like to move. I like to walk when I'm thinking or when I'm going through stuff, and like being social, like that fuels me. So
Mhm.
if I can, just chatting with a friend or having that time, carving that time out to share our week, and if we can walk while doing that,
Mhm.
that's even better. So like those are times that those are the sort of the things that I try to carve out for myself. It's if I don't have them, I feel like a little bit like I'm missing something. So I need it. Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as the actual how they're getting accomplished, your kids are older now, they're in school. Are you doing some of that during that time, or are you carving the time out outside of those
I'm
hours?
I'm doing it. So I try to get, a workout done before they go to school. Like
Before you
I
said that.
try to
Yeah.
do that. Doesn't happen every day, but I try to
Right.
I'm all about, trying to get that balance in. So I'll give myself a goal. I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna do this 3 to 4 times a week. I'm good. It's going to happen. And so
Mm,
again, I force myself to do it because I know I'm going to feel good afterwards. I force myself to do it. And
mhm,
then the days that I don't force myself, I make that decision. And then
mhm,
sometimes I end up doing it. I'm like, oh, well, I can. I've just woken up and I can get this done. So like I'm able
mhm.
to get, have a bigger goal even. But I give myself that balance. So then if there's those days that I'm kind of tired and I want to sleep a little bit longer, then I will. And then, I'll do like a lunchtime hour sort of thing where I'll get myself going
Okay.
for a walk or something just to break up the day.
Okay. Yeah. I ask only because I have 2 days a week really where the kids are completely out of
Right.
the house, and I find that I struggle with wanting to devote most of that time to doing things like this and working and editing shows and making social media content and doing all the things. But they're also the only 2 days where I really can go for a walk
Yeah.
alone, or I can go to a store and make a return, which doesn't involve putting kids in and out of high chairs 14
Yeah.
million
Literally.
times. Like,
Yeah.
or not high
Yeah.
chairs, car seats. It's like those things, being able to do certain things that on my own, even just making a return will take 10 minutes, with kids takes
Right.
35. So it's like I'm struggling a little bit with wanting to really fill these days with the work, but also knowing that if I don't take a little bit of that time to just like do the self-care stuff, I, I struggle to fit it in
Mm.
otherwise. And I think that part of it is the summer, right? Like I'm in New Jersey in the States, and we go down the shore
Yeah.
every weekend. Like that's our thing. And so the weekends are not like I'm not doing laundry
Right.
over the weekend. And so I think in the school year it'll get a little easier and things like that. But it's just
I know.
it's like
And you know what?
I want to do everything in like
I
12
know. And
hours.
it's like, of course we have to set time out for self-care. Like that's super important. But like, then
Yeah,
what is self-care? Like if it's stressing us out, it's really not self-care. It
I
really isn't.
know.
And
I
so
know. It's like,
sometimes, if there's days like do what is going to make you feel comfortable and
yeah.
clear-headed. And if that is checking stuff off your list, getting it done, like we've talked about productivity. It makes me feel good once that's done. And if I'm going on a
Yeah.
walk, forcing myself to do it, and I'm thinking of all the stuff that I have to do during that time, it's really not
Yeah.
productive, right? So it's like being
Yeah.
getting through those things can be you can forgive yourself and get through that stuff and that could be a form of self-care for you in that you want to be able to get it all done so that you have an earlier night or you're not stressed about it and thinking about it. It's like that. I think that we put a lot of pressure on having to create this moment of self-care, and then sometimes it backfires on us, and it's really not.
Yeah.
It's not what we
Totally.
had hoped that
Yeah.
it would be. But it's like if you finish a certain amount of tasks and the tasks make yourself a goal of how much you're going to get done, maybe just take a 15-minute walk just to clear your head
Yeah.
and then get back into it and not put so much pressure on it every day. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I do.
I
Yeah. I
know.
do.
I know. It's like the clutter that we had talked about. Like, I hate clutter. I hate mess. I hate clutter. And it
Yeah.
makes me feel comfortable when it's not like that. And I will take that time and I will
Yeah.
sacrifice what has to happen in the day to get it done so that I can feel focused on what, because it's clean and
Yeah.
neat. So,
I can't I am upstairs in my house
yeah,
recording, but if my kitchen is a mess, I can't be upstairs recording. Like it's bizarre. I'm nowhere near it. I can't see
yeah,
it. And actually the episode that aired today is with Meredith Huck, and she was talking about how it sometimes frustrates her that there is this like well-intentioned and works for some
Yeah.
people narrative around motherhood that's like, you know what, leave
Hmm.
the laundry, leave the dishes, have someone else do it. And she's like, I
Yeah.
can't. It makes me happy to do it and get
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
done and not see it. And by the time it would take someone else to come in and
Yeah.
do it, I could have done it 14 times and been
Yeah.
relaxed
Yeah.
about it
That narrative
already.
is not for everyone. I mean, it
Yeah.
just,
It's
it's great.
great if that's
Yes,
what you
100%.
need,
Like if you're
right?
feeling
Yeah.
like you don't care about that mess and you want to do it later and you feel like, you're drawn to do something else at that time, like amazing. But like I
Yeah.
would be doing something else at that time and then looking at the mess. Like I need like I
Yeah.
can't, I need this to be cleaned up and then we can play a game where we can go and do, all right. I
Yeah.
just I'm exactly the same way. Like stuff
Yeah.
needs to it needs to get done. It needs to get done for me. On
Yeah.
needs to check off my list. So,
Yeah. We always joke at night because when my husband and I are going to sit down and watch TV and have adult time, you know, he will like literally like tiptoe over the toys and over the sneakers that they've thrown off and like sit down. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be with you in
yeah,
5
yeah, yeah,
minutes, you know, and I have to clean. I will even vacuum before I sit down because there's a crumb. And it's like, I can't sit here and relax and watch Handmaid's
yeah,
Tale with you if there's toys in
yeah,
front of
yeah.
me. It's like two different parts of my
Mhm.
brain. It's like,
I know. And
ah,
it's like also what I think in that time is like I'm gonna do it anyways. So I want to
true.
I want to do
Totally.
it now so that I can
Yes.
relax. And my
Right.
husband's the same
Which
where
love him
yeah.
dearly, but they
No,
don't
my
think
husband's
that
the
way.
same where he'll be like, well, and he's confident that he's gonna do it too, but he's like, but I'll do it later. And I'm like, no, no,
Yes.
no, it's happening now.
Yes.
I can't relax till it's done, right?
Yes.
I know.
Exactly. Like later. And I'm like, well, what is later? Is later like five
Yeah,
minutes from now? Or is it like a
yeah.
day from now? Or like, and he's like, I don't know, just later. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, no, no,
Yeah,
sorry,
like
that doesn't work.
that doesn't work for me. Like I can be calm when things are done. Like I'm I'm that person. Like my husband would call me, like he says, like I'm an anti-procrastinator. Like I need to, he calls me that all the time. Like
That's
I
good.
need that, let's get it
Yeah.
done and then I can relax, you know?
Yes. I'm the
So
same.
it's
Yep.
just, what
Yep.
works for everyone for sure. But
How we're wired.
that works
Yeah.
for me. That's my calm. Yeah.
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 I hear you. All right. Well, Gina, is there anything else that maybe I didn't think to ask you or that you want to make sure to get into this conversation, leave people with anything on your
Yeah,
mind?
well, I just want to leave people with, like we've talked about how hard motherhood is and how hard it is in those early stages and, having the lack of sleep and all of that. And I just want to reiterate how important it is to have that support, whether it is, friends, family, any sort of expert in any field or any area that you're feeling a struggle in. Like if you don't have to struggle, let's just get the help that we need. It's, we're not in this
Yeah.
alone. There is a village. There are people who are like dying to help you and people who know what it feels like. Like when I talk to my clients, I'm talking to them like as like a mentor. I remember that feeling. I understand what it's like and I'm here to help now that I'm on the other side. And so I really just
Mhm.
feel like we start sometimes in this culture where it's just that we can do it all. And
Mhm.
we can. I know we can, but we don't have to.
Yes.
And we're sacrificing other things to do that. And so if you can get that support, you can call on the support. Like let's make it let's reframe it. Let's make it normalize asking for support and asking and getting that help that we need in areas that we feel are just like not working or we don't want to put energy into or are just really hard for us and make motherhood easier.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's
Mhm.
I'm hoping that
Boom.
yeah, I'm hoping that that
Yeah.
resonates, and I hope that people feel that they can lean on other moms even. I love that.
Yeah.
Like mom
Yeah.
supported me a lot. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I don't know. We all go through that period of thinking that we won't need it or that there's something wrong with us if we
Yeah.
do. Um, and yeah, it's
Not
not
the
the
case.
case,
It's really
you know?
hard.
So
And,
yeah.
all the moms understand it. All the parents understand it,
Yeah.
so you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, Gina. Well, thank you so much. This was
Thank
great.
you.
Even the
I
second
know.
time, I enjoy talking to you. And I just thank you
Thank
so
you. It was
much.
so great talking to you.
Okay, so it was such a small comment, but it was so impactful to me when Gina shared that she has to force herself to sleep because I keep waiting for the day that I will want to go to sleep earlier, that I will want to be an early to bed, early to rise kind of person, and I'm just not. I like to stay up late, I like to sleep in, and it's a pretty regular occurrence that I feel irritated by those natural tendencies. Every now and then, I will get myself to the point where I'm so tired and burnt out that I will go to sleep at the same time as my kids, or sometimes even earlier if my husband is home. But on a regular basis, I resist going to bed. I want as much downtime, as much adult time as I can get at night. And while I'm not usually a fan of forcing myself to do anything, I'm realizing what it was about what she said that hit me is that it's less about the forcing and more about the stop waiting to want to. I can tell you with almost 100% certainty that I'm never going to be a regular 8:30 to bed kind of person, but I know there is a middle ground from my usual midnight bedtime. And as interested as I'm sure you are in hearing about my sleep patterns, I hope you did get as much out of the conversation as I did in terms of Gina really breaking down the different stages of sleep, the common issues with sleep for our kids and for our families as a whole. I know as a parent, it is so comforting to know how, quote unquote, normal certain things are, but mostly that there is always something we can do about it. We can always make a change, and I really appreciate that. So, for more on sleep and sleep training, check out Gina's website and social media. All will be linked in the show notes, and that is all I've got. I'll see you next time for the 100th episode of the Sass podcast. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sass Says is a production of Luann Nigara Inc. This podcast is meant to be educational and not meant to replace professional therapy or professional medical attention. To learn more about today's show and what's new in my world, head over to sasssays.com. Thanks so much. Talk later.